This is day 2 of the August 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. I've written down a number of questions, and in the past people have found it helpful to hear other people's questions. The question you put is not in this selection here. It's not because it wasn't a good question or unimportant. I don't remember them all. I get very confused when 20 different people tell me different things that I should do or not do to feel better, to relate more intimately, be less repressed, more normal like they are. It is confusing, but I'm not sure I need to act on any of that. These are not just questions, these are also comments. I have, after the last retreat, realized that there is no separateness, and with this realization came a real bliss. Now there is a yearning to keep and go with this realization. But a lot of it is memory, although at times it doesn't seem to be memory at all. I'm finding myself forgetful, inattentive. Is it helpful to use that knowledge that I'm not my present state of forgetfulness, but much more vast than this? Is it useful to remember that, to think of that? Or is this a new trap? Could you say some more about things like pain, loss, insomnia, fear, not happening to me, but just happening? Hearing that was somehow a great relief. Several people reported that, incidentally, that hearing that things are happening, but there's no one to whom it happens that has sort of been jolting or relieving. To hear and maybe to see something. And people ask, say some more about that. Maybe we'll get to that. Can you say some more about the state of not knowing? To me, it easily results in hopelessness, or else it becomes scary. Everyone around me in daily life seems to know what they're doing. Coming here, being here for a while, I feel disoriented. There is so much going on in my life in a big city, and it's so different here. The mind is so unfocused. My back hurts while sitting. How does one sit with pain? Can one overcome this pain by sitting a lot? In talking about blame and the pain of blame, you only mentioned a child shutting down with too much pain of blame. What about the child who takes all the blame onto himself or herself, feeling responsible for everything that happens? What is attachment? Can we look at that from scratch, someone said. Really look at attachment. Coming to this place and being in retreat, there is immediately a noticeable energy for attention and awareness. This is simply not there at my place of work or at home, with all its involving and consuming activities. Do you find that with getting older there will be less involvement and more quieting down, opening up? Or does something else have to take place in one's daily life to get out of our never-ending busyness and involvement? I have observed that as long as I'm emotionally involved with my own stuff, I simply cannot be open and sensitive to what is going on in another person that I meet. My perception of other people then becomes distorted through this involvement with my own emotions. Can one be so present that there can be clear perception of another person? Wouldn't that mean some freedom from involvement with one's own emotion-arousing problems? I'm only beginning to become aware how emotional I am and how much that interferes with seeing someone else clearly. When I come in here into this meeting room, I realize I want your approval. A pat on the back, like knowing I'm good, the good boy or the good girl. There is competition in that too. After all these questions, just listening to the wind. The sound of the meadows. The sound of sighing of the breath. The heart beat, can one hear that? Or is that there? Physical sensation. Thoughts arising, emotions triggered, and the sound of the bird. But these questions are there, they are there, and they've been asked, are being asked. So can we look at them together? Look at this one particular topic which affected quite a number of people. Pain or loss, jealousy, insomnia. Can it just be seen as happening, not happening to me? Not this immediate identification. This is me. I have this. It's my pain, my poor fate, or my good luck. That's what it came up in a group too. Several people said it would be good if one could just see it like that, as something happening. But it's not happening to anyone. Or does one feel, it's good to think it's not happening to me, then the me remains unscathed? That can be a very exciting thought. The me remaining unscathed, unhurt by hurt. If I could only swing it like that. No one said that, it just came up right now. One has to examine everything. Because often our understanding is understanding of an idea, a new belief presenting itself, that the me may remain unhurt when there is feelings of hurt. And new ideas, new beliefs give energy. Every idea that comes up in the brain also manifests as some kind of energy, neurochemical, electrical energy in this body, which is then either attached to, or one feels a revulsion against it. What was said, and we'll enter more into this together, is, can pain as it is felt be just felt as pain without the immediate thought, this is happening to me? It's my pain. I have to live with it. I have to overcome it. Or can I overcome it? Can I be free of it? Is it good for me? If I sit long enough, will it go away? It's a little bit a different question. Can one observe directly, immediately as it happens, how something that is going on, a pain or the inability to go to sleep, a feeling of loss, abandonment, someone has left, is translated by the mind through thought into story about what is happening to me. And to that story there is a new reaction of more pain, more sorrow, more agitation, which prevents the relaxation of falling asleep. Can one observe that? It is a very simple thing that is happening, although it becomes very complex. But as it happens, a pain, not being able to go to sleep, and the thought, I can't go to sleep, I will not have enough sleep, it will get worse, I will be incapable of working tomorrow or being alert, or this pain is going to get worse. I've had it before, I remember it. I don't want it. How can I be free of it? Do other people have the pain that I have to go through? I seem to be worse off than others. These storylines emerging from an incident become more powerful input than the incident itself. And the whole organism reacts to this input of storyline put together by thought in the brain. This is so important and so observable that one can't say enough about it. Say enough about it just so that it will strike one as it's happening. And if it's really attended to, if it comes into awareness as it happens, and the effect seen, and the moving away from the actual incident that triggered the story, when that is seen, maybe one doesn't go on with the story, even though there's a great momentum to that. Because we love our stories, and we love to feel victimized or be the best or the luckiest one. Those thoughts there's an addiction to them. Addiction meaning the feelings that they trigger in this organism are pleasurable and therefore want repetition. So there is momentum to the stories that are created, and yet one can also see that with the story, what it is that one doesn't like or wants to get away from is overshadowed and also often made more powerful through new input, new fear, new sleeplessness, new pain, new sorrow, added to what's already there. In the past, I've called this the headlines that come out, the loaded headlines about me, what I'm going through. It's more than a headline, it's also the whole story of it. Can we be aware of that as it happens? Maybe in the middle, maybe at the end, maybe when we're all upset over it. Or maybe right at the beginning as the words are starting to form about what happened to me again. We're so used to it, we take it so for granted, we may not be aware of it in the beginning. But it's there to be heard and seen, to be wiretapped into. So we're coming back to can the pain, the irritation, the agitation that prevents sleep, can it just be seen as something that's happening right now? Along with wind and insects and breath and heartbeat and many people in one building, sleeping, walking, sitting, eating. Just allow it to be there without commentary. Even without labeling it, knowing it through label, recognizing it as my old pain, my eternal sleeplessness. That is the first response of the brain, to know, to label something, to know it, to associate with it a meaning from the past, and projecting into the future how this will continue from past experiences or just speculation that it will be like that again, or maybe worse. That's how the brain responds to something. Can this just be heard as caw, 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 caw? Or the brain needs to know what's the name of this bird. The name may come up, but it's clear, isn't it, that caw, 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 that's not a name, that's not a word or a thought. It's something that is happening. And this, if we're talking with each other, we need to use words and labels. But can we use them very lightly, cautiously? Because the word pain in the back is not what's really happening there. And to find out what's really happening there, a name or a label is not helpful. Maybe to a doctor it is, or to start diagnosing and testing and so forth. And to communicate, talk about it, compare notes with someone. Do you also have a backache? Well, sit. But here, maybe what we're here for is to be in touch with reality, with a real thing. Extricating this mind from all the network of labels and associations and touching the real. Is that possible? Or are we too far gone? Of course not. It's happening. It's only so quick that the label is provided. But glimpses, in the beginning just glimpses. It doesn't need to remain a glimpse. It can be a stable state of listening without knowing. But in the beginning it may just be a brief glimpse of something that is heard or seen without knowing what it is. Feeling a pain without knowing what it is. Being without sleep, without knowing what this state right now is, and allowing it to happen. Unrecognized, unanalyzed, undiagnosed, without commentary from the ever-ready commentator, which is the computer, the brain, doing it habitually. There's not an entity in there, it's a mechanical process, programmed. So what is this that's happening right now? When there is no comment, when there is no label, no recognition, not knowing for a moment, and therefore touching, feeling, sensing, openly, spaciously. When the I, the me that is suffering all this, or enduring, or experiencing this, when this I is not created through thinking about it, through our 1,000-year-old way of thinking about it and creating it and recreating it. When it's quiet, then there is only what's happening. That's what is actually so. The other is comment, storyline, headline, which creates this feeling of there being a separate me. And because the story about me creates heartache and bellyache, or intestinal, gutsy feelings, therefore it seems so real. Did you hear that? Is that heard and looked at? A thought about myself having been abandoned creates an ache in the heart. Or the idea I have to overcome this sort of creates a gutsy feeling in the intestines, in this area. And therefore, me who wills to do this, or me who is suffering this pain, is felt to be real because of the heartache and the gutsy innervation here. It's validated through the reality of physical processes. That's why it's so amazing when awareness catches the thought, the remembrance, the storyline that caused this heartache or this gutsy feeling. An awareness that is open, that's not storyline, it's not concerned with weaving webs about me and you and us and our fate and so forth. It's just clear. Light. What's there? What's happening? Not separate from what's happening. Does the question come up, how does this awareness come into being? How can it be cultivated? Because that seems to be the solution to our involvement in suffering, separation, me having my pain, and the compounding of the pain of separation. How to come upon this awareness. But that's, again, a program, the how program. Because right now, there's listening and there's the sound of the insect, isn't there? Distant traffic, a voice speaking. There's some listening to the heart pounding, is there? Beating. Maybe some perspiration forming on the skin. Cool breeze, the light in the room. Does one have to cultivate this awareness, or is it's all there, isn't it? And then the thoughts in between, I can do it, and she can do it better, and how long? And these are the rumblings on the clear day. The dreams being manufactured all along, and the getting caught in the dreams, in the fantasies of the commentary. All the ideas of what I am, hopeless or a good prospect. These are also happening, these comments are also happening. But they are much more involving and entangling than the sound of the plane. Although who knows, when we hear the plane and think of flying back home, to Florida or Canada, or going on a vacation far away, just the sound of the plane may start that fantasy going. But in general, it's simpler or easier to listen to these sounds than to thought. One person this morning came in and says, listening or looking at thoughts is the most exhausting thing. Because so quickly there is entanglement, emotions, more thoughts. And then how can I get rid of all of these thoughts, which the person had seen is another thought? And of no help to get rid of thought. It's just more thought about thought. But then the way it was put, the thoughts do end at times. And then the colors are very bright. The sounds are very crisp. Just because the net isn't there. It happens when there's interest in what's happening. And one person said, well, what, in all this barrage of stuff, what's happening, what should I pay attention to first? Is one sort of trying to establish a priority list? Just listen to the whole thing. Maybe chaotic cacophony, unfocused, disorienting, but listen to whatever is nearest or farthest. It doesn't matter. To what's actually there, and notice that it needs no comment, but the comment is very quickly there. Things are too chaotic, I'm too unfocused. And then one is caught up in that commentary, rather than just the sound of the car, the cicadas, the heartbeat. See, if we don't label this stuff, if it's not labeled, then it's not disorienting. It's not divided. It's not separate. It's all there. But if the commentary becomes the overpowering thing, then at a moment of attention, listen to that reverberating in the mind, the memory of the commentary that was just made. I'm no good at this, and feel the body accompanying that statement with certain feelings and emotions, sensations. It's very simple. Either attention is there or it is not there. When it's there, then things are what they are, without being known yet. They're just there. The knowing comes a minute later or an instant later. When attention is not there, the programs run. And the programs are thinking about things, about ourselves, our relationship, our job, our pleasures, our pains, and all the feelings that thought is wired into, that fantasy is connected with. And for no reason that one can give, suddenly in this thinking web, thinking, emoting, feeling web, there's a moment of attention again, awareness. Then will the commentary abate for a moment? Not when one sees it wants to come up, I didn't do well, I was inattentive again. But it's not necessary. It's extra, it's useless, wasteful. Just to listen now to what's there, that's enough. Without comment. See, it's important to talk about this. We're talking about it in retreat after retreat, in group meetings, in private meetings, here and there, everywhere, wherever we meet together. And maybe this talking about it, looking at it, groping, grappling with it, has something to do with becoming more aware of it. There may be a connection there, I'm quite sure there is. To the extent that this body-mind becomes concerned about itself and its sorrow and pain and difficulty in relating. Like one person is so emotionally involved, I can't see another person. To that extent, one becomes aware of not seeing another person and wondering, what is this person like? When the emotions abate a little bit. But first seeing, I can't see somebody when I'm all wrapped up in my problems. That's a very truthful insight. And an insight into truth, into what's really happening, gives energy. It doesn't drain like the web of commentary about how hopeless I am. That is a draining thing. It doesn't generate energy. Because if I think how terrific I am, it may generate some energy. As we said before, ideas have that power. But it's not the same energy as seeing what is, direct discovery. And there is a different kind of energy which has nothing to do with idea, belief, what I am, what you are. All this oppressive burden that we carry around and that keeps us alienated, isolated from each other and ourselves. To notice one is coming into the room, into a meeting, expecting Toni's approval. Pat on the back from her, being the good boy or the good girl. To see that. And no further commentary is necessary. Usually the insight is overlaid by thinking, well, I shouldn't be this way, I should know better. But just to see it's happening. We talked about yesterday patterns over the centuries repeating themselves, wanting to be in the good graces of the mother, the father, the teacher, the priest, minister, rabbi, in the good graces of God. These are ancient patterns which are discoverable and are being discovered. They need no further comment. Or it's not only further comment, but the thought is, how can I get rid of this? I shouldn't be expecting a reward from her. Oh, see that the expectation is there. The seeing has right action. It can dissolve that pattern at the moment of seeing. One hasn't to go on with it. And then we can talk without expecting rewards from each other. We'll just look at something closely, on the same level. It's not the same level if one expects a reward from someone else. Then it's the child and the parent. And on that level we don't see each other because we're involved with the emotions that go with being a child or being a parent. Like the person said, when I'm all involved in these emotions, I don't see where someone else is at. I don't perceive accurately. So, coming into the room, seeing expectation, or sitting there wanting a nod or approval, just to see it. Can that then abate in a clarity? I asked that particular person, do I contribute something? Do I do that sort of eyes lighting up a little bit when you say something, or smiling? Or in that case, the person said, no, you don't. Actually discourage it. That's what's frustrating. But maybe somebody else feels differently, so tell me about it.
Because I don't want to encourage that, have it cultivated in the mind, to be exposed rather than reinforced. And yet we can both have the joy of seeing something together. Doesn't need to be a pat on the back. It's sufficient unto itself. Question, let's take that up quickly because it came up from several people. Was it how to listen to pain, and will it go away if I sit more? Somehow or other the idea that sitting, one sits through pain and abolishes it or so. There's a lot of myth about that. I know several people have ended up with knee operations ignoring pains in the knee by sitting lotus position. We have a lot of untimed sittings now, so people are able to get up when the pain becomes intolerable, too much. This idea is so ancient too, that pain is good for you. No pain, no gain, we used to be told. Maybe people have heard it in other centers too. Why is this? The suffering Jesus on the cross, I used to look at those pictures in the museums and cathedrals, the blood dripping, the wilted look, the sorrowful women at the base of the cross, and then people coming in and bowing or curtsying or kneeling at these pictures. Is this also where worshipping pain is being sustained? And yet, for a lot of us, having gone through deep sorrow and pain, may awaken a question, why am I doing this? Is this how to live? How does this come about? What is the root of it? Is that all there is to life? So there is something to being in touch with sorrow and sadness and the pain of it and wondering about it. Not just building up a belief that this must be good for me and eventually will get me to enlightenment or heaven. But really climbing into this aching back, or when it's, maybe one's sitting in here and we're sort of agreeing in here to sit for 25 minutes without a lot of commotion. You know, if somebody can't bear a pain, please get up and walk out of the room, walk or lie down. There's not a place, an endurance hall, for examining and looking and being in touch with what's there. So, if one is interested to be with pain for a while, because even if one goes into the other room, it's still there. If one's walking, it's also aching. Then sitting is a good, quiet, motionless way of entering into something without movement of body or mind. It's this, it's that, I remember it, it'll become like that. To not know it, and quietly allowing that to be happening. And often the amazing discovery is that with all the other input gone, and not knowing what this is, the lightness of that, the absence of conflict, it doesn't remain the same, it changes. But find out for yourself. Maybe long sitting if it means a lightening of conflict, lightening of the separation of me and mine, and abating of it, abeyance of it. Maybe that has an effect of relieving tension in the back. The back tension may reflect the conflict about myself and my fate that I don't like or want to overcome or fight. So it's all open to finding out, to experimenting gently, not in such a hard-nosed way. Willpower, I must, I will, I shall. That also reflects in tight muscles. Has one observed that? Usually when people tell me I'm trying to keep my back straight, my first question is there willpower involved? Because will and muscles are tightly linked. The will to fight already flexes the arm muscles. The will to endure tightens and hardens the musculature. And awareness is not will. There's nothing to do with it. It sheds light on will and its effect on the body. Its effect on the glands, on the chemicals, which it can set into motion, maybe bringing energy. I will succeed. I will get to the moon. And a lot of energy there from the connection of the thought of what I will with glands and muscles. Chemical, the whole chemical system, the neurological system, linked to that thought. I will succeed. So does the question come up, should I give up all will? Should we give up all will? That's, again, thought, commentary. No, see it. Let intelligence act. Intelligent awareness has its own action. It's nothing to do with will, it has to do with the truth of the situation. The earth and the solar system, the cosmos, the stars, the galaxies, this all is taking care of itself and has been doing this long before human beings arrived with their will to control things. The grasses break out of the ground in the spring. It is an ever new marvel. This spring, after all, the breakage of trees, it looked like a disaster area here. You wouldn't believe it. One person who came from New York said, I just told a lot of my friends what an idyllic spot I have found up here in western New York. And now it's a shambles. Wherever I look, there's something broken or dead.
That's what she said. And she was sad, depressed. Not the whole time, but when these commentaries go. But when spring came with an unusual abundance of rain, we just were amazed. Amazed is not the word. See, all the leaves, the foliage, even what looked like dead trees breaking out in foliage. I just wondered what ways does life travel through a dead through a broken branch? Must go very close to the bark, because that was still hanging there, connected. And where so many trees broke near the driveway, all the little trees that are coming up, the green stuff, bushes, covering stumps, and the sun shining through in probably much faster growth than before when there was a lot of shade and closeness, one tree too close to another maybe. So there's something in nature that takes care of itself without human will or knowledge. Where human will and knowledge has interfered, there are always secondary and tertiary effects, side effects, which were not expected and now have to be taken into consideration what to do about that. We can't do just one thing without causing a lot of other things that we didn't expect. So, it's not a matter of giving up will, but watching it. In 7 days of quiet retreating, watch it. Neutrally, not taking sides, impartially, not moralistically, not judgmentally. But to really watch it fully, it has to happen on its own. Because the will to watch is already a narrow tunnel, with me on the one side and the goal at the end of the tunnel, and in between there's all this darkness. Does it take will to listen to the rustling leaves? The breeze touching the skin, cooling it. The movement of the body, breathing. Sensations where the knees or buttocks touch the chair or mat. Does it take will, or is it just there? thoughts arising? Are they just there? Or more thoughts about the thoughts that they shouldn't happen? Is that just there? With the wind and the coolness and the light. We will end here for today.